Lovely. So we've now got the recording on there. So welcome to tonight's tasting. I was going to say it's the last of the Zoom tastings we have for this year, but I have to tell you, it looks like we're going to have one more because it wouldn't be getting to Christmas without doing champagne. Now, if you're sitting there thinking how we're going to put it into little bottles, don't worry, we're not going to. We're actually going to drink the whole bottle. Well, not the whole bottle in one sitting, but we're going to send everyone a whole bottle. Anyway.
Oh, wow.
Bravo. You like that idea, Lloyd?
Absolutely. I don't think I've missed one of those ever. Some of them I went to twice, if I do remember.
You did. Well, we'll be sure to let you know once we've got the details sorted for that. But yeah. Tonight's tasting, of course, is all about whiskey and the fantastic whiskies from the New Zealand Whisky Company. And I'll just get you to unmute yourself there, Laura and Mike, when you're ready. And my privilege tonight to introduce you to Laura and Mike from New Zealand Whisky, who are going to take you through this tasting tonight. Fantastic collection of products, and we've been featuring them through November and are continuing to in December, and super excited to have these in store and to have you guys presenting the tasting tonight. So what I'll do is I'll hand you over to Laura and Mike, who are going to take you through tonight. Any questions, you can see T on your screen there, reach out and he'll look after you, and we'll go from there. So Laura, Mike, over to you.
We're just trying to figure out who's going to go first.
I'll go first because he'll be doing all the talking. Hey, good evening, everybody, and awesome to have so many of you online. And thank you, Glengarry, for doing this together with us. We're really thrilled to be part of the tasting and show some of our whiskies to you guys. I'm Laura. I'm the sales and marketing manager for New Zealand Whisky, and together with Michael, we have worked here from the start of the year, and really looking forward to the new year and lots of exciting things happening. So yeah, I think it's going to be even better year than this one. But I'll pass over to Michael, who is going to be running the tasting with you. So, Michael.
All right, so hi everyone. First of all, I'm told that I'm not allowed to yell. I've got a tendency to yell into the microphone, especially when you're inside this large hall here in this old room. Yeah, it's nice to meet you all, and thank you very much, as Laura said, to Glengarry's for getting this on its way. I'm glad to say that I won't be turning the camera off, but I am wearing my pants, so we don't have to worry about that one.
Sorry. Remind me. Thank you for saying that,
Mike. No worries. So yeah, I come from a winemaking background, originally from a sheep farm. I'll try to keep this as close as possible, and ended up getting roped into the distilling side of things, and came back on here, as Laura said, started here with NZ Whisky at the beginning of this year. The New Zealand Whisky collection itself has been around for quite a number of years now. It's been around this is its 11th year, since Greg, our CEO, bought the products off the Preston family, who bought the original whiskies, or last remaining whiskies, off Wilson's Distillery. His dream has always been to restart distilling again, especially inside Dunedin and inside New Zealand. And we finally got that on its way this year in February. So yeah, without a doubt, without much further ado, I suppose we might as well kick into it. So if you've all got your first glasses, and with the new make, which is the heart of the start, that one there. It's the first time I've started off with the new make at the beginning. It's because it's quite a fruit bomb. So new make it depends on where you've come from and where you've been and what you've tasted and things. Every new make, I should say, is different from the next. It's generally because every still is different. All stills are handmade, especially on the large scale size. So with them being handmade, they can all produce a different style spirit. So our stills are heated with a calandra, and so it's a very slow and gentle heating. our stills are also installed inside Speight's Brewery in Dunedin, and I collaborate together with the head brewer in Dunedin and get him to make the wash that I want to distill. I believe in lengthier fermentations, so I have quite a long fermentation to try and draw out as much character as possible from the wash, and then quite a slow warming and a mediocre distilling, I would say, to produce this spirit that you've got in your glass. So inside the glass, this is very, very fruity, very fruit forward and grain forward. It's very round and creamy is usually what. Yep.
Right, so that one's making noises now. That's good.
Good to have you with us, Pat. Yes. So this is cut to 45% spirit. So it's not going to burn you or anything. So you feel free to have a taste or add water at first glance. Or and even though I'm the producer, I can't help but keep on drinking this, which is quite dangerous. It's very round and very smooth, not too alcoholic, and you can really get the grain flavors up front and the fruits towards the back.
And the sort of subtle oiliness of it as well. I think in the weekend when we were doing a tasting up in Christchurch, a lot of people who hear about a white spirit initially think it's going to be very hot and dry and alcoholic. And they were taken back by the smoothness and subtleness of it, that it is really mellow, and probably that's why it lingers on so nicely down the throat as well.
So we just released this on Friday. Finally, it was going to be released earlier, but due to the COVID situation, it got drawn out a little bit longer than what we anticipated. But all the same, here it is, and we have it in 375ml bottles and 100ml bottles, which is ideal for slipping in your sock if you're going to go for a walk anywhere or go for
I was thinking about Christmas more like instead of going for a walk.
Yeah. But yes, so it's good. It's aging beautifully now inside the cask. Our first barrel was laid down in February. So yes, we're looking at watching the progress of that nicely. Was there any questions about this, or are we going to leave the questions to later, Anthony, or?
Everyone can throw a question in the chat as they go along, or I mean, it's not a huge crowd, so if you feel like unmuting yourself and asking a question, that's fine as well. I'll just quickly share my screen so everyone can see what the bottle looks like, because you guys just sent this through just before. All right, so that's what the bottle's going to look like there, right?
Yep.
That is correct.
Did everyone see that?
Although the 100ml bottle is a little bit smaller.
Yeah, I think you've done quite well with that branding and the whole name of it. It's quite striking. So
thank you. And that's,
yeah, looks very cool.
Name came from the art of distilling, Michael.
Yeah. So just a bit on the name. It happened because our CEO Greg lives over in Tasmania, and he employed us at the end of last year, of course, and didn't get a chance to meet us until May, when he came over when the Trans-Tasman finally opened up. And when I poured him some of this new make, he said, "Oh, what's this?" And I said, "It's the hearts. It's the start of the hearts." And I said, and he goes, "Oh," and I said, "Well," he goes, "How did you produce it?" I said, "Well, it's sort of like the art of the cut." And he goes, "What a name!" So that was how the name was born. So. Of course, as you know, the distillation period has three different stages in it. It has the heads, the hearts, and the tails, or otherwise known as the feints and the foreshot. And yeah, so you have to determine at the beginning when to cut the heads, which are poisonous. Is probably the best word for it. And you cut them off, and then the fruitiest, richest spirit comes off at the beginning, or the purest spirit comes off at the beginning. So it's an art of knowing when to cut it. You can go by numbers or you can go by smell and taste. And because I'm an ex-winemaker, I generally tend to go on smell and taste always. Because
Can I ask a question about the cut? Yeah, I was just going to ask before you started that. Do you take a long cut or a short cut, or what are you looking for?
it all depends on the fermentation, really. You can have, we've got a pretty steady recipe now of our wash for our main wash. So when we're distilling it, but when it's fermenting, the wash is fermenting, you can have the same recipe produced every single day, but for some reason, or every now and then there's a slight variation. And of course, I'm a big believer in the moon phase and stuff like that. So that can change the fermentation. So sometimes you might get a little bit more funky sort of character coming through. So you might want to take a longer cut or an earlier cut. That's why it's important to do things by nose and taste, because if you're just doing it on numbers, you might either miss out on some highly graded spirit or lose some. So
And did it change much when you diluted it?
On the palate it does, yes. It doesn't burn as much.
Not so burning.
But
You get drunk faster.
The main thing is when it's coming off the still, it's even more grainy, even more
really intense,
it's an intense sort of like a orangey character or a banana character, especially if it's depending on what malts I'm running, really. And if I've changed the yeast, which I've tended to do every now and then. But quite a few people liken it to, they keep on smelling or tasting the Macintosh malt or the Harrogate is another one that we keep on getting all the time.
But it is interesting to see how it changes from the straight off the stills and then slowly adding water to it. It seems to be depending on what you mix it with or how much water is in there. It brings out really different flavors. And this one is perfect as just an ice cold schnapps straight from the freezer, but works excellently as a mixer with anything you want to add it in with. Gin and tonic with this is good, or sparkling water, lemon lime bitters or something. So any cocktail. Once you get your hands on it, don't be afraid to try some interesting concoctions. It works really well, and it's interesting how it changes with different things.
I think that sort of over the years we've seen some pretty nasty looking new make spirits that they've bottled for some reason, but over the last few years you're definitely seeing a bit more of a technical approach to it, and something that is a bit more approachable, that's perfect in a lineup like this, that's for education and almost showing that terroir of like whiskey and where whiskey's from to a point. And you're talking about gin and tonics and cocktails and things, you're really starting to see an uptake in bars grabbing new make because they just really want that sort of sweet barley base and things like that. So it's definitely got its place. There's just one question here which probably we can answer towards the end or with each whiskey, is what sort of foods would you match to these whiskies or this one, or along as we go, like what, any food in particular that you think pairs really well with whiskey?
I'm terrible at answering that one.
What about cheese roll?
Goes with anything, but we have done a few tastings, things like matching beer, whiskey, and cheeses. So there definitely are some really interesting combinations of different whiskies depending on their fruitiness or the depth of them, of what sort of, for example, cheeses they go with. But I'm unfortunately a bit like Michael. I'm happy to drink whiskey anytime with anything, but we can, once we start going through those, we can think. And also interesting to hear you guys who are attending, your feedback and ideas. So please throw ideas to Anthony on the chat.
I think Colin just threw out the old cheese roll. That must pair well with a good southern whiskey, right?
Yum.
Good old cheese roll, especially depends. Some people rave on about the Southland cheese roll, but I don't find any difference between an Otago or a Canterbury cheese roll or an Auckland cheese roll.
What?
I think
Let's move on to the next one.
All right,
so
we should probably move on to the next one, really. We can always go back to the new make. This starts on the long range of the much older whiskies, of course, with the Wilsons. So number 2 on the list is the High Wheeler. You probably want to take a big slurp of some water, hopefully that you have with you. Otherwise, the fruitiness of the new make will dominate your palate. All right, so the High Wheeler was the basis of Wilson's whiskey, pretty much. I mean, Wilson's was known as a blended whiskey, mainly at the beginning before Seagram's came along. This is a 70-30. It's a 2 grain, so one grain, I should say. So it's 100% barley, but Seagram's, when they came along and purchased Wilson's Distillery, they installed a gin still, and they decided, well, you needed to have unmalted barley to be able to produce gin, because unmalted barley produces a neutral spirit, a neutral flavored spirit. The Wilson's family, or the people there, decided to barrel some of that down, and hence why you've now got the 70-30. So it's a 30%. I'll show the bottle. There it states just there. So 30% unmalted barley and 70% malted barley. And this is 21 years old, and it's been inside a ex-bourbon cask for that entire time. And this is what I would call value for money for its age, for sure.
Definitely my go-to one out of our range. That's a very subtle, easy drinking, smooth one. And people that aren't familiar with a lot of whiskies and want to start somewhere to try and learn about them and start doing tastings, that's definitely a very easy to start with to get into the world of whiskey in our range.
Yeah.
I'm getting quite a sort of salty character on the nose and sort of transfer to the taste as well. Is that just, are the barrels near the coast, or is there something else coming through?
It was near the coast. We're a very small island.
And we are only where the barrels have been only 100 meters off the seaside, so they have spent a long time here on those barrels.
So the original storage of Wilson's Distillery was on the Torrey Plains in a big airplane hangar. And the Torrey Plains, of course, it's not far inland from the seaside anyway, but it's quite a moist area, so it draws in that sea mist inland. So there's definitely sea mist there. And of course, when Preston's bought the barrels back in 1997 and brought them here to Oamaru, and put them in the Lona Merck, the old Lona Merck building across the road from this place. Yeah, it's directly next to the sea, so it doesn't take much for saltiness to seep into everything. Just leave your car outside parked on the seaside for a wee while, and you'll find out what happens. But yeah, certainly it's a. Every time I put my nose in this, I always get, from a winemaker's perspective, a sauterne kind of character. It's very like a dried sultanas, and very yellow fruits. It also has this really interesting, earthiness character to it. From over time, of course. So it's an old whiskey. It's 21 years old, but it's a very soft, very grainy character again on the palate, which I find very interesting.
There's a couple of comments about how smooth it is. And AJ, I'm not too sure about the tobacco mouthfeel, but it's just because I don't know it. But I mean,
once upon a time I was a smoker, and I suppose I can get a Park Drive character out of that.
Yeah, I think it definitely relates to that earthy feel. Definitely relates to that earthy feel, like a. I don't know, just something that's sort of been like, it's from the earth, but it's been baked in the sun and dried. Past
Hay and dry grass and hay. Yeah,
definitely good hay and straw when it's been freshly harvested and drying in the sun. Yeah, definitely. It's a very good one for having with cheese, with crackers, before the meal, after the meal, and everything else. but it's a very smooth, easygoing bottle, and it's just a pity that the stock in this is getting down so low now, because it would be nice to have it, in a larger bottle. But
I mean, the first comment you made was like value for money. Can't really be beat, and even with the half bottle size, it's still under $100. So if you translate that to a 700 ml size, that's still well below anything else at 21 years old. So.
Yeah, for the age and the quality that it is, so I think it is good.
And it's running out.
Yeah, it is. Yes, all of these whiskies are starting to are getting extremely low now. Unfortunately, we did think that we would be able to roll out all these whiskies until the end of the year and start on a fresh at the beginning of next year with non-age statement whiskies. We're going to continue some of these brands that we're tasting tonight in a non-age statement. Of course, we can't go back in a time machine and get the years back on the bottles, but we can replicate the characters that are inside the bottles, the red wine and the oakiness and things like that. So but the COVID has been a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. It means that everyone's sitting at home and buying up large. So the last couple of months, things have gone through quite quickly, a lot faster than anticipated. But in that sense, we still have quite a bit of the high wheeler, which is quite, eases the nerves a little bit, I suppose you could say. All right. So was there any questions on that one that anyone would like to know, or
any comments?
So is that I got a question. Hey guys, is that the intention then with the new stuff? You're going to stick with like these as the kind of core range and replicate this sort of thing, or are you just going to go for a whole new approach?
No, until our new whiskey, which is in barrel now, we are trying to let it sit and take time and mature in peace without having to rush it. So in the meanwhile, we've luckily got a few tricks up our sleeves and few barrels there still waiting to be taken out, and Michael will work his magic on doing some blending and things. But yes, we will have some excellent non-age statement whiskies coming up to keep the range interesting, and also that also gives the opportunity of having different price points of whiskies. And the feedback we've had non-age statement whiskies overseas with our distributors in France and Australia, and the feedback and the comments have been really positive. A lot of people found them and sometimes even better than the aged ones. They are a lot rounder and deeper in flavor, so there's no doubt they're going to be well taken as well. And until our new whiskey, which Michael has distilled in Dunedin and is ready for market, we'll stretch this out, and Michael's going to put his whiskey wizard hat on, and we'll see what we'll come up with. Try and have enough to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, not to be too focused on the numbers and the ages, because then you can produce some great whiskies and not be restricted by the age statement. So.
In the end, it's about the flavour.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
You just touched briefly on France and the US. How sort of far and wide have these bottles gone over the years?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. And in the last 10 years, when we haven't been part of the company, we have been very busy exporting all over the world, Asia and States and Europe, UK, France, and Australia, obviously still a huge customer. But because we wanted to focus on looking after the local market customers here and local people, we pulled things out from States. So we haven't been exporting there for some time now. But that'll all kick off again once we'll have our new stock ready for the market.
Yeah. Cool.
Keep things close home.
All right. So moving probably along. So just letting you know. So this one here, the high wheeler, the 7030, became the base of a number of our other whiskies. So when the Prestons bought the barrels back in '97 and brought them through here to Oamaru, being winemakers, though they were a winemaking family. They're from the Mills Reef, not Mills Reef. From
Mills Reef.
Yeah, from Hawke's Bay, and they brought the barrels back here to Oamaru. They smelt through them. They didn't know which barrels were which, because when they auctioned the barrels, they actually painted over the ends, so they were they didn't know what the age was. And they smelt through all the barrels, and they found that over 2/3 of the barrels they thought were tired. So they racked all that whiskey out and then stuck it into red wine barrels, which is interesting because it's a large amount, but also because as whiskey connoisseurs as you are, I mean, you know that usually you'll go for a finish of a red wine, of a whiskey, sorry, you know, so you would either have a red wine or these days a sauterne barrel, white wine, sparkling champagne, rum, etc., you know, for a small period of time. For example, like 5 years inside an ex-bourbon and 1 year inside a red wine barrel. These whiskies, on the other hand, took a little bit longer to be sold, so that, you know, you've got 5 years inside a ex-bourbon barrel and then 13 years inside a red wine barrel. So it's hence the deepness inside the color there.
But this one, the double cask we're tasting now, is still only 40% alcohol, so that is a lot lighter color than the ones you'll taste later on. So it is subtle but definitely has that red wine finish on it. Is that a clean one?
Yes, there's a clean one. Yeah. Forgot where I was going to go with that one.
Smell it.
Smell it. So yes, this is the Dunedin double cask. Was originally known as the Dunedin double wood. It's a bit of history on that name as well. Greg wanted to call it the Dunedin double wood, and he even put that's a lot of people don't know, but that little orange piece that's on the front there is actually from the original Wilson's label. So that's Wilson's Distillery.
In Dunedin.
In Dunedin. So that's why it was called the Dunedin double wood, and it was the fastest selling and most popular whiskey for the company. Unfortunately, Balvenie decided to bring out a bottle called the Double Wood, and then they patented the name. So they weren't really too keen on having two companies calling Double Wood. So, but Greg, our CEO, got away with that, and actually had a great grandfather way back who worked also and helped start the distillery, and and was able to. It was allowed to use the name for a certain amount of time. But within Australasia. If we went outside Australasia, you had to change the name to Double Cask. So we thought that it's probably easier to move the name over to Double Cask now until doing it later on. So it's the same one, 18 years old. And this one here cut down to 40%. It's not a deeply red color, but it's but it's a very toffee caramel color. But it's what I would call probably the most sherry-like of the whiskies. It's got quite an oxidized red wine character on the nose, which to most people is quite alluring if you like red wine finishes or sherry finished whiskies.
You can definitely smell the sort of brown sugars, and takes me to baking.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of explain that oxidized note to people, but if you think of, like, obviously sherry, you're getting the sweet sherry characters coming through, the dried fruits, the Christmas cake, but you're also getting that dry sherry, which is that sort of flintiness and saltiness, and just I don't know, it's hard to even explain say what like a Fino sherry smells like until you actually try one. So
that's true.
But that's, I mean, that's not far off at all. It's, you know, that's like an Oloroso sherry in the glass right there, you know. Yeah,
it is, and it's from a red wine barrel. That's pretty awesome, really.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have believed it had been in that for that long.
Yeah.
Most finishes are 2 years at the most, and this has been like 12 years. Unreal.
Yeah. I mean, red wine cask finished now is all the rave in the whiskey industry. And you know, when you go back and you think about the amount of time that, you know, or how long ago it was that the Prestons put these into red wine barrel, they were sort of like the pioneers, I suppose, of putting it into red wine barrel, which is interesting. But yeah, it's the whole sherry process, of course, is about oxidizing the red wine, and grows like a mold on the top, a Fino. And And that's exactly what it smells like.
And this takes me, we were just baking gingerbread, finished gingerbread biscuits with kids in the weekend. And this takes me straight into the dough that I was making with all the pork spices and the caramel and the butter.
Now,
I get quite a nuttiness from it as well. Like,
what's that? Sorry.
I get quite like a nuttiness on the palate.
Yes.
Like quite nutty flavor, and then quite drying as well, which makes you want to go back for more. So
Yes.
Switch your accent, Trace, or on, we'll change it.
press 1 for English.
It
Oh, hello. I don't have Scottish on mine.
It does have that almondy marzipan character.
Yeah.
It's definitely there. Yeah. But yeah, and it's quite a long marzipan character as well, all the way through. Makes you want to have some more.
Christina agrees with you.
Yeah, I quite rate how Greg just happened to have a long lost relative that he somehow figured out, came up with the name Doublewood so he could keep it for this part of the world. It seemed quite convenient for Greg.
A photo. I'm not sure who was in the photo, but it looked like him a lot.
Was, yes.
Anything's possible.
Tell you, everyone in New Zealand's related. Did you know that?
I don't know, but he's from Tasmania, so yeah.
It's just a short trip.
So it feels, I'll put that one into there. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. It's sort of a rather large step up. We do have one in between as well, but of course we have to keep it sort of to a barely minimal. So next comes up the Cask Strength, the third one. On the list, or it's the fourth one now, sorry. This is the one we've sold exclusively to Glengarry's. The last cask of this red wine finish at Cask Strength, so 55.8. So it's a pretty deep colour for what it is. I mean, yeah, it's a very dark red. This one here, compared to the previous cask that we had, I find it a little, you know, you sort of had the three really. When you had them together, you have the 100. We have the 100 proof as well, which is 50%. So you had the sherry finish, sherry fino. Then you had the Christmas cake, which is the 100 proof, and then you had the Cask Strength, which all of a sudden becomes plum duff. It's very, very dry, very much dried fruit. You've got all the figs in there, the dried plums. Yeah, the dates and yeah. I'm a bit annoyed really. We sold all this to Glengarry's. I could have easily put some of this in the plum duff and then used it to flame over the top.
I might have to try, I might still have to try that at Christmas time. This is definitely one with spicy Christmas puddings and things to go in a glass or in the pudding or flambéed, as Michael said. A lot of spice.
I think it would be okay if you guys want to keep a few bottles for yourself. So
no, exclusive. Well, this is the only one we kept over, but this is the handwritten one. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you can taste the similarity with the Doublewood. It has that long, lingering sherry fino sort of finish, nutty finish on it.
It's just a lot deeper and more.
It's a lot deeper and heavier on the mid palate, so it's.
But even though it is higher in alcohol, a lot higher in alcohol, and you can see the deeper color and the deeper flavor, it's still surprisingly smooth. A lot of people are scared of trying Cask Strength because they think it's too hot, but it has got the roundness and the full body of it, so it's quite nice on the palate.
Yeah, I think some of that heat just sort of only for me comes like 5 or 6 seconds after, like in that finish, it just sort of starts warming you up. But for like that strength, I don't know if it's a good thing if we're used to it or not, but yeah, I don't think that needs.
And the nice thing about the Cask Strength is that it has the room for people to enjoy it the way they want. A lot of people are afraid of adjusting the alcohol level themselves, so they think you're not supposed to do anything, but you put ice or drop of water and you get it to the level that you want, and with the different percentage of drops of water, and it definitely brings out different flavors again. So it's very very good versatile whiskey to have a play with, so to say. Yeah,
it's definitely a take no prisoners whiskey. It really fills your whole mouth out and very broad, and it lingers for an extreme long period of time. Yeah. And
Can
then
I just about the name? Just reading it, is it a made up word? Because Oamaru is obviously a region in Otago.
it's our town. It's the town we are in. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you guys just come up with the Peruvian to sound Scottish, or is it just like
it's a bit before our time, but yeah, I mean, you know,
this is where the barrels were.
I suppose you could say that instead of being you could say that you're from Auckland and you're an Aucklander, or a Wellington, you're a Wellingtonian. If you're from Oamaru, you're an Oamaruvian. So it became the Oamaruvian.
Because the home of the whiskey is that very popular down here amongst the locals. The Oamaruvian, definitely.
Yeah.
You got any questions or comments about this one that you're trying?
No questions, no comments.
So it's a single cask. How many bottles did it yield?
I can't remember. I only bottled it.
330.
330.
Is that about the right mark on like all your barrels? You're getting about that many bottles out of it?
No, it differs completely. I mean, it depends.
It
Depends on the. It depends on a lot of things, really. It depends on the size of the cask that you have it in. I mean, these days, sorry, we have a range of casks here from 20 litres. We have 20 litres, 55, 110. Then we have the ex-red wine barrels, which are 225 and 228. We have the traditional bourbon size is 190. Of course, you can go all the way up to 300 litres in the cask, but the smaller the barrel, the more spirit you have in contact with the wood. So the wood to spirit ratio is larger, and also the greedier the angels become as well. That's a good colour comparison, Anthony. And the wood as well, it depends on what forest you also get, where the wood comes from. I'm not sure actually if too many whiskey distilleries have looked into it in the past, but it's one fascination that I've got, like with the ex-red wine barrels. I know the forests and things where the woods and things come from, so you can have denser oak compared to not so dense oak. So a less dense oak will have evaporation out of the wood a lot faster than a denser wood, so you'll have less alcohol at the end of it when you go to rack it. Generally, on average, you would get from an ex-bourbon cask, 190 litre cask, you would get about 170 litres after 3-4 years or 5 years. Yeah. So yeah, the angels do get thirsty, and it also depends on where you're storing as well. Where you're storing. So the warmer the temperature, the faster it's going to evaporate. So you need to have a constant. It's better to have a constant temperature as well. Yeah, there's lots of things that play in part. Yeah. All right. Any more? No.
All right. That's good. I think everyone's stunned by how good that whiskey is. That's exclusively available through us. So
yeah, that's the first time I think I've tried that, and I was just going to say it's really good. I do like the higher ABV, so I think that definitely adds a bit of more texture and mouthfeel to it. And I just tried it with a couple of drops of water, which kind of opened it up a bit as well. Really.
Yeah.
Really kind of.
And that's the whole point of releasing a cask strength. I suppose one of the biggest hottest topics in New Zealand at the moment is, like, for example, Cardrona, how they're releasing their barrels or their bottles in higher ABV in a smaller bottle, but it gives you the choice as the consumer to be able to add the amount of water that you want to add to it, to what your requirements are.
Get lots of different types of whiskeys instead of just the one.
Yeah, because you can always add water, but you can't take it out. So it's good to have the choice. And then, so just, I don't know, you probably explained that and I might have missed it, but the difference between this one and the last one is basically this was part of the same stock, it's the same age, it's the same stuff, but it's just a single cask, it's just the last cask.
Yeah, I mean, this one here is a single barrel from Cask Strength. And this one here is a blend of several barrels, of course, but cut down to 40%. So from same barrels, of course, yeah. But
okay, yeah, so part of the same era, but a single cask and higher strength. Yeah,
that's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, I would suggest probably taking a big gulp of water, because after taking that big fish and then going into the next one, is a bit of a
Now would be a good time to have a piece of bread or cheese or something to wash your throat down, but definitely water.
definitely, yeah.
To give room for the next one, because it's quite overpowering and full-bodied, that Oamarubi, and it takes over everybody and everything. Yeah.
All right. I think I've got a clean glass.
Yeah, I'll give you a clean
That's a
glass.
clean glass.
Yeah, it is a clean glass. No, it's a clean glass.
Didn't have enough glasses with me.
Oh, it's such a small table. We tried to be economical. That's not a clean glass, just a moment.
I do like how you're sitting in front of the whiskey cabinet that's like front and center in all your promo material recently.
Any idea how long it took me to clean this one? We found it at the back door. So it was one Friday that we got cracking and cleaned it up, and thought, well, we'll better because we don't have a cellar door yet, we're still really missing customers and wanting to share this place and the whiskies with people walking in. If somebody accidentally does walking, at least we can take to our little shop and say, what would you like?
Yeah, it's got a handy display. It's a pity you can't see the whole picture, because we've even got Gary the goat up here.
Oh, you have to see the goat.
Which is quite interesting.
There we go. There he is.
Okay, yep, he's right there, mounted on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So moving on to this next guy, the fifth one. So this is the South Island Single Malt. You can see it there. It holds a special name into itself. The label actually on the back has a picture of the original distillery, which Laura got nicely printed out. That's the original distillery there. So that was the one which they put on the water on the River of Leith in Dunedin, which then later on became the Wilson's Distillery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Anthony's disappeared. He's gone black.
Yeah.
So this whiskey is from 1998. 1998. No, it's not.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
25 years.
So it's what would you say? Yeah, they did a lot more peated, or they were trialing peated whiskies at that time. And when Seagram's held ownership of the distillery or came in, they wanted to emphasize or start to bring out new styles of whiskies, because they realized that the ingredients were so good inside New Zealand. You had this amazing water from the River of Leith, and you had this brilliant barley from New Zealand. And they said, well, you know, you're industrially producing this whiskey, and you might want to, you know, you want to increase your range. So they brought out the Milford, of course, which was a peated style, and they took the peat from the Tyree Plains. So this is a single malt, 100% single malt, and it uses the peat from Tyree Plains. It's not heavily peated like you would get from Nile, of course, but it's just very, very light, enough there to help lure you into the fruits that it's bearing. I mean, it's unlike the high wheel of the first one that you had, the Wilson's range. It brings out the more golden characters like Maribel, plums, and becomes more orangey.
Stone fruit.
And stone fruits, yeah.
But it is quite a sweet smell as well,
Yeah.
sort of almondy.
And you get the lanolin. I always get lanolin from the peat, and it's at the very back. But as soon as you take that first sip, it's there, and you can taste the bonfire and yeah. So
Yeah, Silence there, right? That's just like
Yeah, it's
tasting
20
history. It's pretty good. That's a pretty impressive whiskey, that one.
It's 25 years old, this one, so it's and personally signed by Mr. Cyril Yates. I should put a pointer out there that Cyril was the last distiller at Wilson's, and when Greg took over bought the whiskies off the Preston family, he put an advertisement out looking for whiskey knowledgeable people, and of course Cyril saw that advertisement and called up and said, "I'm the last distiller." So Greg got him to come up and see all the barrels and everything, and now Cyril's back distilling with us. So it's awesome to have Cyril about, and the stories that he can spin are pretty entertaining.
Good yarns.
Yeah.
He started at Wilson as a 16-year-old schoolboy with a lot of family in the business, and his first job was painting barrels. So he's definitely worked through the whole process and learned a lot, and it's excellent to have him on board now, helping us to do the distilling as well.
But yeah, this whiskey comes off. What always amazes me about it is that it's very cereal up the front at the beginning, and it widens up to the big fruits in the middle of your palate, and then it fattens out, and then you're hit with this tiny hint of bonfire smoke, which draws you in and wants you to take more.
But it is very subtle. The peat in it. I personally I'm not a lover of peated whiskey, so to say, it has to be quite subtle and very good for me to drink it. But this one, I think the terminology that Michael uses is peat for beginners, that if you're not familiar with it or don't like it, this is still a very easy drinking whiskey with a hint of peat in it, but it just brings that way more character and depth to it than what it would be without the peat.
See,
Right, we won't hold it against you for not liking peated whiskey. I was just saying, we won't hold it against you for not liking peated whiskey. How do I kick her off this call? Sorry,
Hey,
Lloyd, go ahead.
Did I get less in that bottle?
Did you get less in the bottle?
Well, yeah, because I almost finished that one.
It's always the same with this one, and no matter how much you put in the glass, it seems to go down faster. I'm not really too sure. It must evaporate.
No, it's really nice. It's really cool.
It is. It's 40%, and you wouldn't believe it. And trying it, I mean, yeah.
It's got for a 40% ABV. I think it's got a surprisingly lot of depth into it as well, and flavor. Very easy drinking, as you said, goes down quite nicely, and bottle would disappear in no time, but it still has a lot of flavors there.
Quaffable.
Excellent. Any more questions about that one, or
comments?
I was just going to say, you're right about that 40% level. That for me, like whiskeys can be quite flabby and one-dimensional when they sort of get watered down too much, but this is still complex. It's that wisp of smoke.
Yeah,
some really cool sort of apples and pomegranates sort of coming through. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Not disappointing at all at that level of ABV.
Yeah, when I was bottling, because this is the batch that we bottled up at the beginning of this year, back in May, when I was having to sadly go through the cask and taste which ones I was going to blend for it.
Hard job.
It's a hard job. It was it gave me a real, like you mentioned apples, it gave me a real Braeburn character before it was made the cut. It had this real redness to it, and sometimes it still definitely comes out, that's for sure. Yeah, the skinsy redness of the Braeburn. Yeah, or maybe it's more like a pink lady, I'm not sure.
Pink lady,
yeah, that's exactly it.
And then we've got one more.
The highlight, I would say.
The highlight. So that is the 30-year-old Otago.
The 30-year-old Otago.
And there isn't very many countries in the world that actually have a 30-year-old, and that's something that people don't realize. And we are very proud to have in the selection of something that age, because it's going to take, even though New Zealand distilling industry is growing fast, and it's excellent to see so many brilliant distilleries coming up, and there's more and more distilling and more whiskey distilling in the country, it's going to take a very long time for New Zealand to have another 30-year-old, and I'll be retired or gone by then. So really, really proud of this one. It's awesome.
Yeah. So this whiskey, as Laura was saying, yeah, it's there's only 4 countries in the world that have produced a 30-year-old. It's one of those things, one of those challenges that when you're a distiller, is which cask, which ones show the potential to keep on leaving in there. And you have to, at the beginning, it's one of the most common questions I get asked. So that, how do you know which barrels you're going to keep for taking out in the first 5 years, or which ones you're going to take out in 10 years, and which ones you're going to take out in 12 years, or what's your release going to be? You don't really know until the time comes. I mean, we don't know if I'm going to, you never know if you're going to be here next year or in 5 years or in 10 years as it is. So it's about writing the story, I suppose, and someone hopefully comes along and thinks the same picture as you and tastes through the barrels and thinks the same things. So it's amazing to be able to have a 30-year-old in the collection in itself. Yeah. This is 1987. This was distilled, and it was originally known as the Lamalore, which was the 10-year-old from Wilson's Distillery, and it's pretty amazing on the nose. The color in it compared to the other single malts.
The 25-year-old. It's a lot lighter.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter. It's a lot more yellow. Straw colored. It's very, very golden, I would say.
And I think I get a really strong going from the pink ladies or apples or Braeburns to a lighter pear. Like all I get in this smell is a fresh apple cider. That sort of freshness of pears. Sorry, pears, not apples. Pears. Yeah, pears.
Pears. Yeah, like a glazed pears. Honeys. I mean, this is a whiskey that you can probably sit there and sniff for over a long period of time, and you'll be able to find whatever you want inside it.
I've been doing that since 3 o'clock.
I want your job.
No, you don't actually, right? Just as a point of interest, I once had a bottle of Lamalore that was bottled in Scotland.
Ah. No, that's an
hey, I'd like to show it to you, but I drank it.
That's good. Maybe you've still got the bottle somewhere.
No. If you look it up on the interweb, you'll find it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not a. Yeah, it was good. I like Lamalore. It was good.
Yeah, you can still find Lamalore around. It's quite surprising how many of the auctions overseas, especially in Europe, have New Zealand whiskies, the old New Zealand whiskies.
So. Lamalore and single and all
this. Yeah, there's a couple of followers of the NZ Whisky Instagram who quite often post them out there, and the one that Colin just started up as well. There's a couple of people there that posted.
Yeah, good comments.
Yeah, posted them.
Right.
But this has a real
beautiful.
Yeah, real earthy. Again, like I said about Sauterne in the high wheeler, but this almost ranges on going into the Tokai style. It's really, really honeyed, and it has this real sort of a medicinal character that's very alluring. This with blue vein cheese is outstanding. Especially the aged blue vein cheese from Whitestone here in Oamaru. I'll keep on plugging Oamaru.
That was a good match.
So there's one of your answers for that previous question about what food do you put with it.
Yeah.
Blue vein cheese would be splendid.
Yeah.
Well, we've got Pat enjoying that with a blue cheese at the moment, blue Costello. So yeah, you can definitely see how that works. Yeah.
Have you got this for sale at the moment, T?
Yep, we do. So I don't know if we've got, because you guys just bottled the last 2 casks of this separately, is that right? So
the last cask, so I've still got another 3 there.
Yeah, okay. So
And
I think there's two separate casks on the market at the moment. Obviously, the bottle we've just sort of chosen not to separate them just yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what other stock we've got around to you, but I know there's one bottle of this on the shelf at Vic Park.
Oh, there's plenty.
Oh, I
around.
could have asked you, Colin.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that.
I have to say it's nice to enjoy something from 1987 because all the wine from every wine region in the world is rubbish. So whiskey's all I've got for the birth year.
Definitely.
I also wanted to apologise for the fact that I look like I'm lying down. I'm not.
No, you
Some
don't.
idiot decided on my bloody laptop to put the camera at the bottom so you can see my keyboard, you see, and not the top. What you can't see is over here is all the glasses and on my Mac. You know, it's really crazy though. Idiots.
I've just realized that's actually the keyboard we're seeing at the bottom. I thought that was just like a broken camera, like a broken screen.
No, that's the
like
keyboard.
the lines across.
No, because I use a big screen, which is behind it. I only use this when I do Zoom, which unfortunately is quite a lot of the time. And it's not normally pleasant like this one.
I think we should all go back to the early 90s where we used to have these old web cameras that has a cord and you plug it into the computer and you can put it anywhere you want to.
Yeah.
That was the good old days.
Problem was
Good old days. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So yeah, that's about the collection. Is there any more questions that we have about this whiskey or
anything else?
Or anything else?
Have you enjoyed the tasting? That's of course.
I think you guys said it right. You can just sit here and keep smelling and tasting that whiskey for the rest of the night. So
yeah,
it's really cool. I've got a couple of questions just about like how you got into distilling, Michael.
Me?
Is that something you were doing when you were a winemaker here, or not until
No, not at all. Actually, I was winemaking here inside NZ in North Canterbury, and I got headhunted for a job over in Germany in quite a prestigious winery that's 500 years old. And being a Kiwi, I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty amazing to be able to get this opportunity because in Germany, like France, to be able to get a position of rank inside a winery, it's usually
as a
foreigner is very rare. So we sold our house and packed up and we were ready to leave and going to stay at my parents for a month before we heading over to Germany. And I got the terrible phone call that the Baron who was employing me, who owned the winery and vineyard,
who was a 55-year-old.
Yeah, 56.
Yeah.
Had a heart attack and died. So we weren't really sure what we were going to do there for a while. There was a lot of confusion in between. So Laura's originally from Finland, or is from Finland.
Originally. I've always been from Finland, yeah.
So we decided to make it easy on them, and we've moved to Finland. And if something came up, then we'd be close by and be able to move over there. Of course, nothing ever really came about it. The Baron was very high in politics, and which made it very easy for me to walk in the door. So after he passed, it was next to impossible for me to be able to get in. So I was lucky that I was helping a friend start up a restaurant, and there was a young girl that was working there, had just been employed as an marketing ambassador for a new distillery that had just opened up in Helsinki. And so I went along and introduced myself, and Bob was your uncle from there. And that was how a winemaker became a distiller in Finland, because there's not really, it's a bit cold up there to grow vines.
It is, but funnily enough, with the global warming, there's few wineries popping up now in Finland as well, in the northern hemisphere of the world. But the story we've got is that we met 26 years ago when I came as an exchange student to New Zealand, and from a big city of the capital of Finland, Helsinki, I was stuck in Southland in the tiny wee village of Waikea. And we've been around the world a couple of times, and we've lived in Christchurch for 8 years. We have been in Finland, and things have sort of gone from what we believe that things happen for a reason. And if it wasn't, unfortunately, Michael's father's passing last year, we hadn't come back to New Zealand for a holiday, just at the funeral. And thanks to COVID, we got stuck here for 4.5 months. And during that time, Michael, of course, being a distiller, wants to visit a few places, and Oamaru and the New Zealand whiskey was one of the places we came to see the team and meet them. And that's how the story started. And
yeah, that's how we ended up back here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Very lucky to actually get back into the country and do the job we're doing, and yeah, really, really enjoying it.
But I'm still winemaking as well, every now and then.
And that's probably
every year when I was living in Europe, I still went over and helped friends in Germany, other friends in Germany and things. And I've still got, of course, got all my winemaking friends here inside New Zealand. So it's cool to be back here, and I'm looking forward to. Last year was the only year I missed out on vintage. Actually, no, I worked up and went up and helped out for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this year as well. It's good to keep the palate and the nose in order as well. Smelling and tasting as always.
And as wine and whiskey go well together, as you all know, it's good to have the fingers in all pies and have friends in both camps, so to say. So Michael is busy looking for interesting, good barrels to put our whiskey in the future years. So that's
the real reason you're still doing some winemaking.
Yeah, always. It's a good relationship to be in. If you can make the wine and be able to keep up that friendship and that partnership, you can get the barrels off the winemakers as well. Yeah.
Is there anyone in particular you're working with down there at the moment, or?
Not here in Waitaki. There's been a few people that I've talked to about it, but it's still home and hose with North Canterbury. It's of course I've got friends further down in Central Otago as well, but yeah, even though it sounds strange to say it, even though I'm Otago 100% and I'll always be blue and gold, I believe that North Canterbury holds the crown for the best region for producing all styles, all wines. That's for sure. Yeah.
You mean in the bottom half of the site, South Island, don't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Not
the best of all wines if you take the rest of New Zealand.
Hawke's Bay and yes, in other areas up around and through in the North Island also produce very good wines as well.
And don't forget about that.
And Marlborough. Don't forget about Marlborough.
And Martinborough is also very good.
And Martinborough's not too bad. Yeah.
Every 4 years.
and not just to get stuck with the wine industry either. Of course, there's some excellent brewers around, especially just across the street from us and around the area. So we are finally getting to the stage after a very busy year of getting the handle and understanding the business and the industry, into actually starting to meet people and build relationships with other brewers, wineries, winemakers, distillers in the region. So I think next year is time to start collaborating and really thinking outside the square to start creating something interesting and cool.
Yeah. It's a good example, really. I mean, Steve, the head brewer at Speight, it was good to finally be able to get a honed-in recipe for us for our mainstream whiskey. And then I said, right now we need to start playing. And he said, but we've already got our recipe. And I said, you should never stop playing. You always got to. The best thing you can do is always muck up something, because you always learn more from your mistakes than what you do. But never stop thinking of crazy ideas. That's for sure.
Is the distillery open for visitors? Like, is it part of the Speight tour?
Yeah, we're in the process of doing it. Rosie down there, who runs they call it the Heritage Centre, the Speight shop, really wants to start doing tours, and we got all jigged up for it. But then, of course, COVID came along, and because Speight's is owned by Lion Nathan, of course, there's a lot of protocol and things to do with that. So
depending on
hopefully in the new year, we'll be able to open up. I think we're going to start looking at doing some virtual tours and things like that. Apart from Laura with the camera and walking and following me around here.
Depending on how things go with this traffic light system and the new year, COVID and everything, once the new year kicks off, we will see where we're at, and then we'll make a plan for next year. We really want to offer not just the products and the tastings at Speight, because Speight is now a sort of official cellar door in Dunedin, but we really want to do the same sort of packages that Speight offers for beer, for tasting and a tour, now for whiskey tasting and the tour to the distillery. So as soon as it's possible, we'll start doing it. If things stretch on, then we'll definitely look at other options. And like Michael said, we have already discussed the virtual tours as well. So luckily nowadays there's a lot of opportunities and options of doing things.
Cool. Yeah, it's great to be, I think, within a city, like for visitors, when you can have visitors.
Yeah,
it's great to be an urban distillery, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there used to be 3 main places that people visited when they got to Dunedin, and that was Wilson's, Speight's, and Cadbury's. And of course, it's Castle eventually, but yeah, of course, Wilson's has been sadly was taken over by the university, and then most of that's been all pulled down now. I don't know why, when they're so strict with historical buildings.
Yeah.
And now Cadbury's is pulled down, so now there's only space. So yeah. So it's definitely a
potential there.
big place.
So,
Yeah.
do you plan to bring out blends like 42 South and the other one, Wilson's?
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Probably not 45 South, but hopefully Greg's not listening, and you'll start to give him ideas. But yeah, there was.
And don't do that, because he once mixed Wilson's whiskey with Australian whiskey, and they called it Diggers and Ditch.
Yeah,
and it's probably one of the worst whiskies I've ever tried in my whole life. But don't talk about that.
We still have that one going, but it's it's made, but not here. It's sold to our partners over in France, but it's made with. Laura was saying before that what happens, well, when she was explaining what happens when this range starts to run dry, there was a contract distillery that produced 10,000 litres for the company back between 2014 and 2017.
Yeah. So
from that, those whiskies, which are now 4 years old, we produced the Diggers and Ditch for them, and it's it's a very nice whiskey.
It's a nice one,
well, you have to say that. You see, I don't.
No, well, if it's blended by Michael, it's much better.
But yeah, if I ever, when I come up to Auckland next time, and if I can bring a bottle up with me, I'll let Anthony know so he can get in touch with you. You can come down and taste it. There you go.
Yeah. Yes, and it would have been different anyway. I just remember it from a fishing trip a long time ago, and you know, so it'll be different now. So yeah, please bring 2.
Yeah, I mean that's all part of the process and history.
Yeah.
Like that, you know, it's all trial and error. You try these things out. If they work, then they work, and if they don't, you move on. So yeah,
that's right.
What I think I'll do here, guys, is I'll just wrap up the recorded tasting. So I just want to say thanks to Michael and Laura for taking time out tonight to
awesome
entertain us, still semi-locked up. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome range of whiskey and a real snapshot of history and sort of things, of where things are going too. So yeah, really appreciate you for doing this for us. So
thank you, Anthony, and thank you everyone for participating and coming in and tasting these whiskies. And we look forward to seeing you once if you're in Auckland, once Auckland opens up on the 15th. We should make a mention about this actually, that the duty free has decided to open up a duty paid shop in Dunedin Airport. So when you fly into Dunedin, you'll be able to buy our whiskies and things from there. Yeah.
So things are slowly moving to the right direction, and world and the country is opening up, which is great. We can't wait to get to Auckland.
Cool. And just to everyone who's been on the call tonight, if you liked any of those whiskies, obviously they're all available through us at the moment, online or in store. And I've just loaded some pricing that'll be valid on all these whiskies that we've tried for the rest of the weekend before they go back up to sort of the normal special. So if you want to buy anything, you can jump online or come in store and see us. And as they mentioned, the Omaruvian Cask 565, which is the last red wine cask of its kind, at the moment. Is exclusively available through us at Glengarry. So if you really enjoyed that one, which I did, I've already got my 2 bottles, so make sure you grab yours. So. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining tonight. I'll stop the recording